Hello again. Welcome back to Year 5 of the Religious Education Initiative. This is Week 44, Day 1. Last time, we finished reading about the miracles that the Lord accomplished through his prophet Elisha. His time as the prophet of the Lord sets the stage for the final decline of the kingdom of Israel. During the time that Elisha was prophesying, Ahab's son Jehoram ruled in Israel, and during his reign, the kingdom of Moab rebelled against Israel. We see this in 3 Kings chapter 3. A little later, 3 Kings chapter 8, Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, died, and his son, also named Jehoram, whose mother was the daughter of Jezebel, succeeded him and did evil. In his time, Edom rebelled against Judah and became independent, or at least began to, so that from this time forward Israel and Judah have lost all that remained of the great kingdom of Solomon. And then in 3 Kings chapter 9, an Israelite general named Jehu is anointed as the new king of Israel, and he kills Ahab's son Joram or Jehoram, and also Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram of Judah, and then he kills Jezebel and all the descendants of Ahab and becomes the king of Israel himself. He abolishes the worship of Baal in Israel, but he continues the worship of the golden calves of Jeroboam, and during his reign the Lord began to trim off parts of Israel, and all of Gilead east of the Jordan River is lost. Nonetheless, Jehu's son Jehoahaz and his grandson Jehoash and his great-grandson Jeroboam II all reigned with some degree of success in Israel. Really, this is as the Lord's grace to the descendants of Jehu, who at least abolished the worship of Baal. But after that great-grandson, Jeroboam II, for 32 years, there were a series of 4 kings who each assassinated their predecessor. And after these 4 kings of Israel came the last king of Israel, Hoshea. This is where we will return to the text and see the final days of Israel. So, this is chapter 17 of 4th Kingdoms, I believe. So in the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, Hoshea, the son of Elah, began to reign in Samaria over Israel. And he reigned 9 years. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, yet not as the kings of Israel who were before him. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his vassal and paid him tribute. But the king of Assyria found treachery in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to So, king of Egypt, and offered no tribute to the king of Assyria as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria invaded all the land and came to Samaria, and for 3 years he besieged it. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria captured Samaria, and he carried the Israelites away to Assyria, and placed them in Halach and on the Habor, the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. And this was so because the people of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, who had brought them up out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh king of Egypt, and had feared other gods, and walked in the customs of the nations whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel, and in the customs which the kings of Israel had introduced. And the people of Israel did secretly against the Lord their God things that were not right. They built for themselves high places at all their towns, from watchtower to fortified city. They set up for themselves pillars and asherim on every high hill and under every green tree. And there they burned incense on all the high places, as the nations did whom the Lord carried away before them. And they did wicked things, provoking the Lord to anger. And they served idols, of which the Lord had said to them, You shall not do this. Yet the Lord warned Israel and Judah by every prophet and every seer, saying, Turn from your evil ways, and keep my commandments and my statutes, in accordance with all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets. But they would not listen, and were stubborn, as their fathers had been, who did not believe in the Lord their God. They despised his statutes, and his covenant that he made with their fathers, and the warnings which he gave them. They went after false idols, and became false, and they followed the nations that were round about them, concerning whom the Lord had commanded them that they should not do like them. And they forsook all the commandments of the Lord their God, and made for themselves molten images of 2 calves, and they made an Asherah, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served Baal. And they burned their sons and their daughters as offerings, and used divination and sorcery, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, provoking him to anger. Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. None was left but the tribe of Judah only. Judah also did not keep the commandments of the Lord their God, but walked in the customs which Israel had introduced. And the Lord rejected all the descendants of Israel, and afflicted them, and gave them into the hand of spoilers, until he had cast them out of his sight. When he had torn Israel from the house of David, they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king. And Jeroboam drove Israel from following the Lord, and made them commit great sin. The people of Israel walked in all the sins which Jeroboam did. They did not depart from them, until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had spoken by all his servants the prophets. So Israel was exiled from their own land to Assyria until this day. And the king of Assyria brought people from Babylon, Cutha, Ava, Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the people of Israel. And they took possession of Samaria, and dwelt in its cities. And at the beginning of their dwelling there, they did not fear the Lord. Therefore the Lord sent lions among them, which killed some of them. So the king of Assyria was told, The nations which you have carried away and placed in the cities of Samaria do not know the law of the God of the land. Therefore he has sent lions among them, and behold, they are killing them, because they do not know the law of the God of the land. Then the king of Assyria commanded, Send there one of the priests whom you carried away thence, and let him go and dwell there, and teach them the law of the God of the land. So one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear the Lord. But every nation still made gods of its own, and put them in the shrines of the high places which the Samaritans had made, every nation in the cities in which they dwelt. The men of Babylon made Succoth-Benoth, the men of Cuth made Nergal, the men of Hamath made Ashima, and the Avites made Nibchaz and Tartak, and the Sepharvites burned their children in the fire to Adram-melech and Anam-melech, the gods of Sepharvaim. They also feared the Lord, and appointed from among themselves all sorts of people as priests of the high places, who sacrificed for them in the shrines of the high places. So they feared the Lord, but also served their own gods after the manner of the nations from among whom they had been carried away. To this day they do according to the former manner. They do not fear the Lord, and they do not follow the statutes or the ordinances or the law or the commandment which the Lord commanded the children of Jacob, whom he named Israel. The Lord made a covenant with them, and commanded them, You shall not fear other gods, or bow yourselves to them, or serve them, or sacrifice to them. But you shall fear the Lord, who brought you out of the land of Egypt with great power and with an outstretched arm. You shall bow yourselves to him, and to him you shall sacrifice. And the statutes and the ordinances and the law and the commandment which he wrote for you, you shall always be careful to do. You shall not fear other gods, and you shall not forget the covenant that I have made with you. You shall not fear other gods, but you shall fear the Lord your God, and he will deliver you out of the hand of all your enemies. However, they would not listen, but they did according to their former manner. So these nations feared the Lord, and also served their graven images, their children likewise, and their children's children. As their fathers did, so they do to this day. Okay, so this is the end of the nation of Israel, and there are two things we need to pay attention to, because this is the situation to which the New Testament refers when it speaks about Israel, Israel being in exile, Israel being lost. When St. Paul talks about Israel will be saved, he is referring somehow to the children of Israel who were taken away captive into the lands of the Assyrian Empire, and they ceased to practice, well, inasmuch as they ever had, they ceased to practice faithfully the things of the Most High God, and they were lost among those peoples. So this is why St. Paul connects the coming in of the Gentiles to the church with the restoration of Israel, because Israel can only be restored if the nations among whom they were lost come into the covenant. And therefore, even by means of Israel's loss, now all of the nations are called and brought in to the kingdom of God. So that's the first thing. Israel is present here. Second, though, these are the Samaritans. When we see the Samaritans spoken about, this is their origin story. They are people from other conquered lands in the Assyrian Empire who were plucked out of their homeland and brought and settled in the area north of the tribe of Judah, what remained to Israel, which is to say, Samaria and perhaps Galilee. And here, especially in Samaria, they continued to worship their ancestral gods from wherever they came from, and then they tried to make Yahweh, the God of Israel, also one of their gods. Now, I have to say, things seem to have improved, at least somewhat, among the Samaritans by the time that we see the Lord speaking to the Samaritan woman Photini at the well outside of the city of Samaria called Sychar. But in the eyes of the Jews at the time of Christ, the Samaritans were these people, the people who were still sacrificing their children, who were still worshiping idols, and were also somehow claiming to worship Yahweh, the God of Israel, with them. So if we wonder why the Samaritans were despised, well, this is why. And yet, the Lord goes to them even before his passion, and he calls them back to follow him. These descendants of, both of Jews, of the children of Israel, we should say, who remained in the land, and the foreigners who came in and mixed and mingled. So, again, even in this way, these people are being saved. And, traditionally now, for many centuries at least, the old region of Samaria had been Christian country. And then, of course, with the rise of Islam, it became mixed country once again. Now it's part of the West Bank. So, at any rate, for now, God bless you all. We'll see you shortly for day 2.